Speam Engine, you ready to go?
As ready as I'm gonna be.
Are you gonna be on camera or off?
In a second.
Your goddamn clothes on.
No, you know what it is? People think when you're bald, life is. It's not. I have to shave my head every day, and every once in a while, a cut will take place. Thank you for stopping the music at the most embarrassing part. Yeah, every once in a while, a cut will take place. And when that thing opens up, it's like, man. Whew.
What makes you think anyone wants to hear about that shit? No, but that does sound terrible.
You're a prick.
It's got to suck to be bald. I thought it might be kind of cool to be bald.
Well, take your let's start that hashtag. Take the wig off. I guess we could do that for LeBron too. Never mind.
King's Speech, welcome. I don't know if I've spoken. I don't know if I've spoken to you since New York's elimination. I certainly haven't spoken to you since Tibbs was fired. How's things going there? Tua Reg says, hello, everyone from Brazil. Hello, Brazil. And as usual, salute to Renee. Consistent as always.
Absolutely.
Kinea Hora. I did not say that correctly. You want to take a stab at that? I think LaFraud should be in the cabinet in the White House. He would fit right in. Good. Yeah, I tell you, I don't think LeBron is an actual Democrat just because he's a billionaire for that reason alone. But anyways, we're not here to talk about politics.
A lot of people don't understand it to begin with.
I have the Odd Couple ready to play if we want to, but I don't know if it's even necessary. There's so much to get into. I've got some great comments from viewers to read, and today's show is largely to let people chime in, let us know what my video didn't cover if anyone didn't watch it. But you did watch it, and you actually took notes. Anything stand out, or was there anything that was obvious that you thought of that I didn't mention?
So one of the things that I thought about was, hold on one second. So the first thing I thought about was, the last agent that anybody really talked about, at least to my knowledge, was Drew Rosenhaus, and that was how long ago? That was like prime Terrell Owens. I think that was like his biggest guy. I can't remember. I'm probably blanking on that. But before then, agents weren't really heard of. They weren't mentioned. And you brought up the point that, nobody knew who Rich Paul was up until all of this, started to take place, and how that nepotism kind of filtered in. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was anticipating any arguments that justify said nepotism. The one that I always wanted to bring up is, all right, well, help that black man get money. All right, cool. But how many black men is LeBron actually propping up? Compared to his son, right? If you're propping your son up and he happens to be black, to me, that's just a little bit different than propping the black man up whenever you talk about nepotism. And I think that that's a really, really above board kind of counter argument to make to what you were saying. You didn't mention that in your video, and understandably so, but that very often is the counter to that nepotism argument.
Just for the record, do you think nepotism has a place in any case, in any situation? Like, are you okay with it in certain scenarios?
No, I'm not. However, some nepotism you can do. I mean, some nepotism you can address because it's outward facing, it's front facing, like you mentioned in your video, and some nepotism we'll never know about. And just to echo what you said, we never would have heard about this if Shams never reported on this. We never would have heard about it. So I was thinking to myself, how often do we see front office moves like this take place and then the premier NBA guy who is also aligned to Clutch and LeBron James just happens to be the one that breaks that story. Because to me, it just seems very opportunistic, and I can't back this up without looking into it further. It seems very opportunistic to put out this clearly divisive tweet that some people are going to say is nepotism and some people are going to say is justified or unjustified. The timing is really convenient, is all I'm saying.
What if the owner of a company, would you at least agree that if you own the company, it's your company to fuck up if you choose to fuck it up?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure you mentioned that. It's
Okay.
a little bit
What if the owner of a company has a handicapped son that he wants to give a custodial job to? I mean, it's nepotism, but you know, sometimes if you're in a position to help someone out, maybe it's not wrong.
So, can I give you a little bit more of a dramatic example? But I think it's still
Sure,
fitting.
sure. My example was terrible.
Would you? No. It's a good one. But could you imagine if the heart surgeon that's operating on your child got that role because of nepotism?
Jeez.
Right?
You mean
Like
so you're talking about someone who is unqualified?
yeah, like he walks in, stumbles, knocks the scalpel up in the air like those old school comedies and stuff.
Well,
Doesn't
that's really the core of what we're going to talk about today, right?
Yeah.
Being qualified versus unqualified. And I challenged viewers to admit, do you really know when someone in an executive position is qualified? And would you be able to like look back at what they did over the year and show us what they did on a day-to-day basis? No, because we don't get to see it, but we get to see the players. Now, you might read about a move that somebody made or a research that somebody did, but for the most part, you're just hearing a report about something. We don't really get to know what's going on, for the most part. But I would like to say that there are cases where there have been other players. I'm going to acknowledge that I know that there are a couple of other cases where a player did a favor for somebody, and I don't understand why that happens, even though Antetokounmpo, Giannis's brother is probably the greatest example, but even that one is a little bit.
I have a better one.
But even that is a little bit weak. And let's just move on to the fact that they are comparing an exec to a player. And people in the comments today were good enough to point out that Austin Ainge actually has a background that says arguably he is qualified. Not only is he not a player, so nobody gives a shit. By the way, I didn't even know that Danny Ainge was the CEO of the Jazz. Did you?
No, I thought he was still with Boston. I thought he still played for the Suns.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. Nobody
Yeah,
gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit.
I was like, oh, he's not a 3-point specialist anymore? Oh, shit. Is Austin Rivers a good example? Because
he's a pretty good basketball player.
Right. But if you want to compare whether or not they're up for the role, Austin Rivers he was a great high school prospect, right? But he was kind of highly touted and kind of went wherever Doc Rivers went. And I don't know how much he deserved that with or without Doc Rivers' help is what I'm saying. Because we could have a very similar situation if LeBron leaves the Lakers. Now, Austin Rivers was, he was nice. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of players around the league hated him because of this nepotism, quote unquote. They always called him soft. They always tried to get under his skin. He was hated for a while simply because he was Doc Rivers' son.
Well, I didn't think much of that because that could have just been jealousy or I don't know. But
yeah,
I think Austin Rivers was on the court too
right.
to not have exposed himself if he was not good enough to be there. Like I feel like somebody, Doc. I mean, what would the counter argument be that Doc Rivers is so protected that
Yes.
no one is going to criticize his son, even if his son sucks?
Doc Rivers is still living off of a Boston championship this many years later. People like him. He's a likable person, and he's a great person to rally up the cast. I hate making the comparison as a Pittsburgh guy, but he reminds me a lot of Mike Tomlin. Like he's great to rally the troops, but like let's see what happens. When you're down 3-1 or you're up 3-1. Sorry, and see what you do there.
Monroe agrees. He thought that he was still in Boston.
Also, can I please buy flowers for calling this like 3 or 4 days ago? I told you on my show. I said it's going to take less than 24 hours for this to turn super racist, all off of one tweet.
Where did you hear it from first?
Some basketball forum.
And because the people involved were white, you paid attention?
Yes. At least I'm honest.
Sean says nepotism is bad when the person you're related to isn't great for that job. And that follows right into the next comment. Austin hit a game winner in college in a Duke versus UNC game. I mean, that by itself is more qualifications than Bronny ever showed in college. I mean, it's way beyond anything that Bronny ever showed in college. You have to find Bronny making a shot versus making a game winner in an important game. But let's just get this really sensitive topic out of the way. Bronny's heart condition, which has turned into an excuse to be sympathetic toward him. If people turn around and talk about how basketball is a business all day, well, if basketball is a business based on sports performance, you would not draft someone with a history of heart conditions. That's bad business. It's not a charity case. It doesn't make sense. Hey, this guy, as a young man, has already had a heart condition. Let's invest.
Well, not only that, AOH, and shout out to my guy 24 Rapture. Not only that, I think you put it in perfect perspective that he was never, with or without said heart condition, Bronny James was never in the game in meaningful minutes. Not once. He was always in the game. So it can say on the stat sheet, him and his dad played together, or the Lakers played him this much. And I can't stand when people are like, oh, you don't know basketball, blah, blah, blah. You don't need to know. You don't even need to know. You have to have some baseline of common sense to be able to look at that and see that he doesn't belong out there, nor has he proven that he should be out there, sans him being LeBron's son.
Yeah. Boy, we got a lot of comments coming through. And Woodage says Seth Curry. Seth Curry is in the Austin Rivers range of good. I don't think Seth Curry is bad. I don't think
he's a great 3-point guy. Look up his 3-point percentage career-wise. He's great. And he has a lot of playoff experience too.
The Dunleavys, someone says. Now, are you talking about player or execs? Because the Dunleavys are doing office jobs now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. Can we all just answer? Does anyone give a shit? Does anyone give a shit if someone gets someone an office job in the NBA? Like at your job, you might get pissed off, but do you really give a shit in the NBA?
I joke, but it's funny. Could you have picked a whiter family to do on the other side of the spectrum of nepotism than the Angels? You know what I mean?
You said that the other day. You called them opaque, and I was like, okay, so I
said
transparent. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, joking.
I thought we weren't going to worry about shades of skin like some of the other people.
Oh, I have a whole bunch of stuff about that, but it's you know, when did the signing take place compared to when Shams reported on it? And how many times have we seen reporting like this in the past of front office moves? Because I do not remember, other than it being like major head coach, Tom Thibodeau hirings, Aaron Rodgers signing to the Steelers, stuff like that. Like those moves you hear about, but the Utah Jazz, it's like who's checking for them right now for that to even be a story? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't really turn the dial, is what I'm saying. It's not like this happened to the Knicks.
Yeah, and speaking of things not being stories, Woodage says Shaq's son is trying to fight back into the NBA after his heart condition. I don't know anything about that. And
Right.
there's probably, and part of the reason I probably don't know anything about it is that Shaq isn't running his mouth about his son being better than half the cats in the league.
Yeah.
RDT says, thank you all for the consistent work. Lediddy Jr. is not good enough to beat Austin Ainge in one-on-one. Yeah, somebody else already said that Austin could beat Bronny, and maybe Austin could beat LeBron, because Bron is clearly not a one-on-one guy.
I
Oh,
don't.
by the way,
Yeah.
since you and I get into the weed things, did you see the documentary about Delonte West? Like, clearly did bone LeBron's mom. Like, I didn't realize that was just an undisputed fact. Like, they really kept that under the radar, at least to me. I wasn't paying attention to such things back then.
So I guess I just live in the weeds, and I just need to accept that, because even back then, I feel like it was pretty much 99% verified. And then when you started to see him under bridges and next to gas stations and just looking in real bad shape, he looked up somebody that had been blackballed, because it's not like he was a slouch. It's not like he was a garbage player.
No, not
You
at
know
all.
what I mean? And that whole situation was. I'd love to know how that became public, because I can't remember. But that kind of thing should have stayed in house. And I'll bet you that's when LeBron's camp started to train themselves on how to keep things under the radar. Because if I'm LeBron, I'm never letting a story like that ever come out, especially for Delonte West. Maybe if like D Wade banged his mom or Shaq or somebody, but not Delonte West. You know what
I
I
want
mean?
to. I want to apologize that I derailed this. I just maybe it's something that we should do in the future, though, because that little documentary video that I saw was really interesting. I want to give a shout out to some of the people who left comments in the video that I put out. Nathan Lawson asks, who earned their position? And here's Austin Ainge's resume. Played 4 years NCAA D1, NCAA assistant coach, NBA DL head coach, then hired as a scout for the Celtics by his dad, granted, but starting as a scout, fairly low on the rung. And that's 17 years ago. He got several promotions, promoted to player development, promoted to director of player personnel. On top of that, lived his entire childhood in a household with an NBA player, learning and observing up close what it takes. President of basketball operations under Jazz's new CEO, his dad. I really appreciate that comment, because when I read that he was the president of basketball operations, I took a moment and I was like, well, that's a pretty fucking big deal. But it looks like Austin Ainge has a very long career working his way up.
The problem with that AOH is if you look back on his hiring history and his work past, if you see any instances of Danny Ainge helping him or getting him a role, that is going to completely nullify any argument you have, because of the oh, what's the word I'm looking for? The overgeneralization of every argument without context. The straw man fallacies, right? So because Danny Ainge got him a role and I didn't look at the specifics. People did post it in my comments. I should go back to it. If it happened once, that completely equals Bronny James going to the NBA for a LeBron fan. So all they need is like the smallest semblance of a crack in our argument or an argument against theirs. And well, now I guess Bronny did it. You know, Bronny got there. Everybody else does it, so Bronny got there too, which is the exact almost like the motto of the LeBron camp.
Well, this goes back to if it's wrong, it's wrong. And if you're in the Braun camp, then pointing out that someone else did something wrong is not good enough to justify you also being wrong. But I got to tell you, after looking at Austin's resume, I don't have a very big problem with getting hired as a scout. I mean, he was an assistant head coach, a head coach. I mean, he knows how to look at talent. I mean, you can't get hired.
Put this back up here real quick because I want to respond to it. Go ahead, I'm listening.
There's a good comment.
Well, no, Tyson's response was not.
Oh God, Tyson, fucking Christ!
No. Listen, no, because I have a response to that. A very clear and concise answer. Even if it is every job, that's still 15 years worth of experience versus no experience when you're comparing the exact same. When you're comparing the situations. So,
well, I should have, yeah.
Well, no, but if an argument's given my way, I at least want to counter it. So if there's nepotism on both sides, okay, cool. But it's still not apples to apples because one, given the role by his father, performed it for numerous organizations over the course of a decade and a half versus the other one who got the role, got in there, and unfortunately didn't do much with it. Mm-hmm. So it's not apples to apples. But go ahead. I just, I don't duck anybody. I always want to look at stuff. But go ahead.
Well, I read a very long resume for Austin Ainge, and then I changed the topic before I read Bronny's resume. And Bronny's was averaged 4.8 points on 36% in one season at USC. Now, and that equaled him immediately becoming shooting guard for the Lakers, guaranteed 4-year contract, roster spot. Right. Let me read Austin Ainge's again, because that's Bronny's entire resume. Austin Ainge played 4 years, NCAA Division I, NCAA assistant coach, NBA. Is that a defense head coach? Hired as a scout, 17 years, working his way up, promoted to player development, promoted to director of player personnel. I mean, Jesus Christ.
The two circumstances are not, to me, they're not even comparable.
And look, I got to admit, it's like, I wish it was not Austin. I wish it was not the Ainges, I should say. I would feel more comfortable if this wasn't defending a white family, because of the laziness of, oh, you're just taking their side because of the color. Listen, that resume, you change the color of the family. That's a hell of a resume that Austin had right there.
It's the only reason it's news, AOH. If the Kembe, I don't know if the Kembe Mutombo has kids, but if the Kembe Mutombo III, got a front office position, everyone's saying that's great. Africa with pride. You know what I mean? It's race baiting at its actually it's race baiting at its least complex. Oh, here's a white family got promoted. Oh shit. Oh, well, where was that energy for LeBron? That's almost verbatim how that conversation goes.
Let me play the first few seconds as they set the stage on the Odd Couple, because it kind of nails what you just said.
Wow. Yesterday.
Let me start it over. Here we go.
All right, Rob G, can you set the table with this Bronny story?
Absolutely, Rob. Nothing more I love than set the table for you.
I'm just saying.
Yes, sir, master, sir. All right, here we go.
Oh, wow.
Yesterday.
Did you hear that? He said master.
Racist.
Oh, my God.
Racist.
They're worse than we are, man.
This man
You heard me
said,
with that.
Hey, you know what's worse is Dub's making me go get his chicken during the commercial break.
Oh,
that's
wow.
crazy. That
know-
sounded
hey,
crazy.
That's got to be racist.
know
Steve,
that's-
stop laughing over there.
You know that's against the rules.
I
When I
know.
first came here, I was told very
Rob
very
got written up.
right. Do not ask the interns or people to go get food. Like,
First
They're
off,
like,
Rob G ain't no
is a
intern.
paid employee. He can go get me
Secondly,
some chicken.
he ain't going to get it. He just ordered it for me. Thank you. And third, quit being a snitch. Snitches get stitches out here, son.
We'll get,
All right,
we'll get
guys.
to it.
So
Here
this
it comes.
story kind of
Here it
got
comes.
buried, honestly, with what's going on here in the NBA. Over the weekend, a Western Conference executive spoke to Athlon Sports.
The important part already went by. This kind of got buried, he says. You know, another way of saying that is no one's fucking interested. And
Right,
you
nobody
dug it
cares.
back out and tried to find a way to make it interesting.
Yeah.
A Western exec was talking to somebody about something. That's your fucking news?
About Bronny James. And during the conversation, he said, quote, that he expects Bronny to be a regular in the rotation next season. 10, 15 minutes. Talked about his offseason growth from summer league to start of the season to the end of the regular season. So he's expecting that Bronny is going to be getting regular minutes with the big club.
That's probably the bigger story because, like, I don't think there's any validity to all of that. They just made up that Bronny had proven himself this year. I don't know what percent of people would agree that Bronny has proven himself other than LeBron fans. I think it was Dreamers Pro was doing a live, and he was like, "Wait a minute, his shooting percentage decreased. What the fuck are you talking about?"
Shout out to Eves. Didn't see that comment in there. Appreciate you.
Salute to E-Dogs,
What?
Mallory,
So the irony is
McZuggins. Sorry.
I got like a whole thing of cornbread that I have cooking on the side that I cannot wait to get to. So I'm doing my best to not perpetuate every single stereotype throughout this entire process. But in that room, Rob Parker and whatever the other guy's name is, the fake Chris Broussard, the commentary that takes place within those rooms is toxic only when they decide that it is, right? Because
Right.
if the roles were reversed, if the races were reversed in any fashion, that's a way different conversation. And a lot of those statements aren't even being made, to delivering chicken and mass of this and mass of that, all that. You know, now, a year from now, we live in times where somebody could look back and say, you know what? I was offended by what they said about chicken and blah, blah, blah. And now all of a sudden we're changing our opinion about it. It's not that different from nepotism.
You're saying that they specifically chose chicken. Maybe that's just what he ordered.
I'm saying they specifically use that.
It's not like you know that.
It's all intentional, all of it.
Hey,
It's
dude, don't
race-based.
type in the chat.
That was 45 minutes ago. What kind of delay
Listen,
are you on?
you and I,
Go ahead.
happen to know that you do love grape soda and chicken and watermelon, but
I don't eat meat,
it
but I don't
doesn't
eat
mean
meat.
that you might
I don't eat
not
meat.
happen.
I don't eat meat.
Oh, good for you. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm Tyson.
Yeah, wrong you are.
I'm sorry. I told you not to do it, but my God, this guy's a great example of how stupid LeBron fans are. How's he supposed to have experience if you don't let him play? He's not supposed to be there. Jesus Christ. You could use
what
that
my
excuse for
response is.
anybody who ever wanted to play basketball. You know what, Speam? I could have been an NBA player if you would have let me develop.
AOH, that's no
with an
different than when you graduated from college. So when you graduated from college, all these jobs were saying you need entry-level experience. The response is always, how the fuck am I supposed to get entry-level experience if you won't hire me? None of this is new information. None of this are new arguments. If you don't belong there, you like. He had experience. Austin Ainge had experience. It's not apples to apples. It's just not.
What else did you take notes on?
Hold on.
I tell you the very first thing that I was disappointed Rob Parker didn't mention was that LeBron James mouthed off. Let's pretend that we agree that Austin Ainge shouldn't have this job. And after analyzing Austin's background, now we actually think maybe he does qualify for the job. But let's pretend he doesn't qualify for the job. It took somebody to dig it out of the news for us to talk about it. It didn't take Danny going around spouting off to everybody how good his son was and that he's better than other execs in the league. And then, if you want to continue to be like LeBron, then Austin needs to fuck up royally, and Danny needs to tell everyone to leave him alone and stop being critical.
You just reminded me. Thank you. Okay, I'll wait. I'll wait till you're done. Can I respond?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Not only that. At what point do you just say to yourself, "Here's this asshole putting all this undue pressure on his kid and being a prick about it," and then it actually coming to fruition? You can take the race out of that completely and just see that it's a dick thing to have happen. Like just within karma across like the universe, for somebody to be that arrogant and for it to be so misplaced, hubris, you might say, for it to actually happen, yeah, that's kind of fucked up. It's not like he said, he tweeted, "Boy, I hope Bronny can get to where he needs to be so he can get drafted."
Exactly. Could you just say it?
He's better. And then it happens. So it just shows you the amount of, again, delicate handsiness that LeBron gets handed. Like, you know what I mean? Like everything is to him. It's given to him.
It's such a obvious point you made that maybe we don't even talk about it. It's like, could LeBron just have made a classy, supportive tweet? I sure do look forward to the opportunity to play with my son. I think he's going to do great. No, he had to fucking tweet a dick tweet. Like it was an asshole tweet. It was a disrespectful tweet to the rest of the league. And somebody else made a really obvious point. We're talking about whether or not Danny's son deserves to be an exec. Well, being as how Danny Ainge was a player, a big name player in the NBA, wouldn't a better comparison be Danny trying to get Austin a spot playing in the NBA as a player, not being an exec? We're not even comparing the same thing here.
No, that's what I said. It's not apples to apples. I think you would be hard pressed to find a valid argument when you're comparing a job that's behind the scenes and a job that is the main attraction. That's like like arguing for an actor's management, whatever, getting an opportunity that the act but you know what I mean? Like the industries are so far spread apart that it's not comparable. It's just the next opportunity to point out nepotism that can justify your side of things. That's what you're going to do.
I'm going to read another good comment on the actual video I posted from JS Hooper, who said he provides a list actual NBA players who never had a nepotism controversy or complaints despite their fathers being NBA players. Kobe Bryant, Brent and John Barry, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Austin Rivers, Gary Payton II, Jalen Brunson, Domantas Sabonis, Tim Hardaway Jr., Devin Booker, Scottie Pippen Jr., Bull. LeBron's weirdo, groupie, clutch sports fans can't fabricate a straw man argument and ignore all of these other examples of legitimate NBA talent that made it into the league on their own merit without using their father's influence. Like, is there anybody on that list that you watched play and said, what in the fuck is this guy doing here?
No, no.
Right.
Nor was it ever that highly publicized.
Right. For example, I don't
Which
think I
which
knew.
might not be fair because everything's publicized now, but the point still stands.
I don't even think I knew that Seth Curry was in the league until Seth and Steph were playing against each other in the playoffs several years ago. And then they didn't harp on it. They didn't spend much time talking about it.
Their 3-point percentages were not that far apart for a little while.
This is what I'm saying. Seth was not there just because of Steph or Dell, if you want to blame Dell.
And you know what? Just to play the what ifs, isn't it weird that, say for example, Carmelo Anthony's kid isn't getting an easy ride, or Dwayne Wade's kids aren't getting an easy ride to the league, but Bronny did? Isn't that very telling? So to me, that would be apples to apples, right? When you look back and you look at, okay, so you look at experience for the job. You look at, because I don't know the kids of their names. I don't follow them. I apologize. But if you look at Carmelo's family, if you look at D Wade's family, I've seen a bunch of clips. I've seen a bunch of games where those dudes balled out. I don't know the specifics. When you compare apples to apples, the fact that they're not in the league, but Bronny is, can you? I don't understand. To me, that's a valid argument that, Bronny was propped up there just for the sake of selling tickets, and nobody would care, or I wouldn't care. I care less if the Lakers front office and what's his face? What's the Hitler coach? JJ Redick saying that he earned his spot and he earned his way here. Stephen A. Smith, it's bullshit. Don't lie about it then. Just say, hey, LeBron pulled his muscle. No, I mean, he used his muscle. Sorry. Well, he pulls his muscle too. He used his muscle to get Bronny in the game, in the league. I have more respect for that than he earned it. Stop. Don't, you know what I mean? Don't lie to our faces, or don't continue to lie to our faces.
Go Fly is continuing to add to Ainge's resume. He says Ainge was named all-conference honorable mention twice. During the 2006-2000 season, he led MWC in three-point field goal percentage at 52.5%. My God. And is one of the best three-point shooters in NCAA, which clearly means he's better than Bronny. But again, here's the biggest deal. Austin Ainge isn't using up a roster spot on a team that's complaining about having no depth and no size. And now we move to part 2 of that video that I made, in which I pointed out, basically, Bronny James is the equivalent of not having Thomas Bryant, because they gave up second-round picks for Thomas Bryant, who is playing in the NBA Finals and has size. Bronny brought nothing to the Bronny brings nothing to the table, and certainly doesn't bring size. And I had a nice comment pointing out that Jokic was chosen with the 41st pick. Jokic, who has 3 MVPs, 6-time All-Star, 6-time All-NBA, first-team selections, and 1 NBA championship. Let's also talk about another defensive player of the year who was a second-round pick, and that would be Marc Gasol. And LeBron James is complaining about a defensive player of the year award that Marc Gasol has.
He took his award.
Yeah.
Can I just say, for every CEO position I've never gotten, I wish I could just walk up to that CEO and say, you took my role. You took my job. That's not how life works. You either earned it or you didn't, except for, him and his fans.
I had no idea Ainge had that sort of a shooting career. The Sun. We're talking about the Sun, of course. That was pretty impressive.
I would say for Seth Curry's name to come up a couple times though, I don't believe that he is somebody that benefited, or no, let me rephrase, that continued to stay in the league because of nepotism.
Austin Ainge looks like he can barely run. Well, good thing that they put him in an exec position then. Apparently he wore his body out playing college ball. Yves became a YouTube member. Very cool. King Speech, are you still here? Any of our callers that like to bring a little something? McNuggins? Anyone else who's feeling like calling in on this Thursday evening? Ooh, we got the NBA. We got the NBA Finals in an hour, by the way.
So you know what's interesting is people are saying they don't care about these finals and blah blah blah. I've been saying for weeks, I'm slowly but surely becoming a Halliburton guy, and I'd rather watch this matchup than having the Lakers in the finals, because it's just boring basketball. Is it tense, and is it nerve-wracking, and will it sell tickets? Yeah, but it's not good basketball.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know why people are disappointed in this matchup. I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup. I don't want to see, I'd love to see it without the foul baiting, and then it'd be a magnificent matchup. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how these go. Maybe I'll be disappointed. I mean, some people think that, and I have to admit, I listened to a little bit of Scap explaining metrically why the Thunder should wipe the floor with the Pacers, but I don't think I don't know. I think the Pacers keep showing us that we've been underestimating them.
Oh, AOH, do you happen to know the rule book definition of tampering? I don't. I want to ask you before I tried to look it up real quick.
Say it again.
What the rule book definition of tampering is.
I listened to this on one of the major networks, and they said anything that causes people to question the integrity of the NBA was included in the description. And I was like, okay. And this was back with the Luka. This was back when the Luka trade happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, every single person said this trade is bullshit. This is the weirdest thing we've ever seen. It doesn't make any sense. I think that qualifies as causing people to question the integrity of the game, and therefore, yes, it's tampering.
Okay, so I know a lot of people always bring up the Chris Paul to Lakers trade or free agency acquisition, whatever. Yeah. And LeBron's go-to is I never cheat the game, right? Which is laughable in itself. But would it not, just to digress for a second, would it not be considered tampering to say whoever drafts my son, I'm going there too?
Yeah.
Right. Wouldn't it be considered tampering if your agent if you have this 3-man weave best friend wise with your agent and some of the closest players you've ever played with?
I would think so.
Right. Okay. So at a very baseline, when you talk about the rules, and I know the argument is, well, everybody does it, blah, blah, blah. Everybody isn't coming out and saying they don't do it. And I'm not justifying it. But what I'm saying is a lot of what comes out of that camp is them talking about doing things, not that far off from politics, AOH, talking about doing things, and then people taking it face value that they did it. Case in point, Bronny earned it. Okay, well, how? The response is always, well, you weren't at the practices. You weren't in the, you weren't at the post-op meeting for his surgery, blah, blah, blah. Okay, all that's true, but you can use that for everything then. if that's the case. If then it's everything's off limit then. If that's where you're gonna go. You know what I mean?
King Speech is in the back. It's,
King Speech.
hello, New
what's
York.
up, guys?
What's up,
King
New York?
How you doing? How you doing? I just heard you talking about the tampering thing, right? And pretty much it's all accepted at this point, or it's not accepted that they throw the rule books out for LeBron and Clutch Sports. I mean, they have blatantly flamed the rule book so many times. I mean, let's keep it real. Rich Paul has been quoted slipping up, of course, but acting like he works for the Lakers. He represents players around the league, and he says we quite often when referring to Lakers business. Which I mean, if you had a commissioner with backbone, I mean, they would have been spanked a few times for that, right? Of course, we know the Lakers are a marquee franchise, and they have to, you know, and then LeBron is the face of the league, quote unquote. So they got to let it ride. I apologize. There's noise in the background because I'm at the park. I don't know if that coming through.
It's not so bad.
Okay, all right, yeah. So busy park, 80, 90 degrees here in New York. So, you know, us New Yorkers come outside.
So King's Speech, what you're saying then is that, yeah, everybody gets away with it, but not everybody gets away with it to the same extent, which again gives his camp an advantage over everybody else.
Yeah, no. Only he gets away with him and you know, LeBron and Clutch Sports and the Lakers. I mean, we're old enough to remember when the Timberwolves got spanked for the Joe Smith business, right? With Kevin McHale, how they got docked 6 first-round picks just for throwing a wink, you sign 1 year and then we'll extend you deal, which has been done so many other times. But they got spanked 6 first-round picks. That impacted an all-time great like Kevin Garnett's career. His team didn't get a first-round pick for 6 years. And meanwhile, LeBron and Clutch Sports do way worse. And they don't even get a slap on the wrist. Well, and I get it.
Can I give you a even crazier example real quick before I forget it? Because I'm going to forget it. How is it not tampering if you're Rich Paul saying, okay, if you draft, we're taking Bronny to Germany if you try to draft him.
Yeah.
You are literally shaking up foundations of other franchises, of other businesses, and you're withholding the ability to have them make a decision because it's going to be compromised unless it goes the way you want it to go. That should be the definition of tampering, and not one person with credibility went up there and said this isn't right.
Oh yeah, because they have, you know, ESPN runs the news. This is why it's great that NBC is going to get into the business, because I think they're going to call it down the middle more so, and they're going to report the news. ESPN will just look the other way. Nobody will sit there and say, because again, they're all in bed with the Lakers, right? They need the Lakers to be viable so they get the return on their investment, you know, paying for the league package. So they don't need the league to look like the jabronis that they really are, the corrupt jabronis that they really are. And, you know, if the league's credibility goes down, so goes their ratings and everything else, you know. But the rules, though, they don't matter to LeBron and the Clutch. And they blatantly, you know, throw it in everybody's face.
You know what else? I mean, you mentioned that the rules don't really apply to them. I see several different people talking about LeBron's steroid allegations again. I've got a video from 2 years ago in which I said it's not going to matter. All they do is say, well, I mean, what do they do right now for everything LeBron does wrong? Oh, he earned it, or oh, he's 40, or oh, other people are doing it, you know? I mean, or other
The
whataboutism.
What about him? Yeah, whataboutism? Because the whole Austin Ace thing is those pure whataboutism that when you look at it, Austin Ace earned he paid his dues. Ronnie just averaged 4 points in high school and 5 points in college. Or what? Like 1 year he averaged 11 points, right, or something like that, and then 4 points in college, and now he's in the NBA guarding Tyrese Maxey. Come on, bro.
Yeah.
So AOH, real quick, you and I had a side conversation about this whole what it's going to do to his legacy if the steroid stuff comes out. And I said, well, maybe it'll, you know, ruin his legacy. They'll they'll take away X, Y, and Z. And I'm not going to speak
What?
for you, but you gave
What
the
would they take?
indication that wasn't okay. You were saying that's not enough, and that it made me think. Okay, so if they take his rings away, if they take away his accomplishments, if they ever find out that he juiced, right? To me, that would be damaging almost enough for him to maybe come back and even backtrack some of this. But you're saying, like, and I agree with you to this point, like, no, like at some point his pockets have to get hurt because he's achieved a lot based off of cheating. He's made a lot of money directly off of cheating.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. It was an interesting conversation because I always bring up Lance Armstrong, you know, when he got caught and how his legacy was ruined. And you were saying that would not be enough for LeBron at his camp. And I'm inclined to agree with you.
Did you take away his money?
I see young disciple keep saying players can't tamper, right? But what about agents who represent players on multiple teams throughout the league?
Can I interrupt you? Anthony Davis was fined for tampering. So do not fucking say they can't tamper. We have actual proof. Anthony Davis was fined, found guilty of tampering. Stop saying stupid shit that you don't know anything about, LeBroners. That's why I don't read their comments. They're just dumb as shit. I mean,
My bad. He kept saying it, and I'm like, I always like to correct people who lie.
Yeah, but if we do that and you have a LeBron person in the chat, we'll spend the entire show because all they do is spew lies.
That's why I say come to my channel. I want to line you up and debate you because you guys love lying. You guys love lying, and I love catching it.
Yeah, go to King Speech's channel, Tyson and Young Disciple. And do they actually call, or have they ever actually gone there? Anyway, they won't. I doubt if they'll call. Sorry, I'm trying to. Oh, you muted.
Yeah,
yourself.
a couple have trickled in, but they won't call in. They'll be zesty in the comments. They'll never call in. I'll drop the link. You know. Yeah. That's how it goes. You know how it goes.
Oh yeah, they're kind of like LeBron talking shit to Stephen A. Smith and nobody else. When the phone's handed to him in front of Shale, they're like, nah, I don't need to make a call. Yeah, I just don't think. Oh, Obelix says I missed Tony Kukoc. Sorry. I mean, it's a long list. I didn't get to everybody.
I think if you look at the sample size of ex-NBA guys or current NBA guys that have kids that are just amazing on the court, that we've seen amazing on the court, you don't hear this come up, A, because they're not, the face of the league, and B, because it doesn't happen. Or if Bronny was that nice, then when's the last time you heard an NBA player make a team because of how hard they practice?
I don't know.
Let alone a 55th pick. When's the last time? Oh, he's a gym rat. That's why we picked him up.
Right.
No, because there's no way to verify that. There's no way to confirm whether or not he kills it in practice because those are closed doors to Lakers. So it's easy to lie about because you don't have to confirm it.
It's even better than that. Didn't JJ say that Bronny has a great soul? There's another reason.
I didn't know.
Yes, he did. No, he absolutely did.
That's wild.
Oh man.
But again, that's just like, to me, that's like easy to parse apart.
Remember though, Bronny's a good father and he's a good philanthropist. We gotta always couch every criticism with that.
They've been saying less and less that he's a good father. I've noticed they have, and I'm wondering if it's because they're trying to hedge their bet to see how this goes, to see if it blows up in Bronny's face or not. They have not been doing the great father thing as much. I don't know if you've caught that.
Oh man.
That crew is full of hedge betting. That crew they're full of hedge betting because it's either they'll win or there's this reason why they didn't win, and that's a valid excuse, and no one else had to go through what he had to go through. Like this year, these vaunted Minnesota Timberwolves, right? And have a coach that didn't know what he was doing, played the starters the entire second half, and
Hey, young disciple, get off the public library computer. Someone needs to do their homework and actually do something. Just stop copying and pasting on the public computer and go back to your box.
What was the other? And actually, now that I think about it, in that entire Black empowerment group, okay, cool. Then how's JJ Redick get a coaching job when there's at least 5 or 6 Black coaches that were well more deserving?
Well,
without a doubt,
that's why
without a doubt.
I included JJ in my video. I'm like, oh, we're not just developing Bronny, we're developing JJ. The Lakers are spending money with these guaranteed contracts for two people who haven't proven themselves, and two
Right.
people who did not prove themselves this year. In fact, I mean, JJ got, for a very short, did you guys notice how quickly that got snuffed out? For a tiny little bit of time, they were shitting on JJ hard
Yes.
for his playoff coaching. And then, boy, that just disappeared. It just went away.
Every time a coach gets hired that's not, like Sam Cassell or Doc Rivers, you consistently see a lot of outrage. How could they not get a shot? But there wasn't a lot of that outrage with the Lakers picking up JJ Redick, and that's intentional.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to read Austin Ainge's basketball resume compared to Bronny's again?
I'm gonna go get my cornbread. I'll be right back.
Boy, oh boy. I mean, it's comical at this point, man. It really is. I still can't get over Mr. Mind the Game having a team score 85 fourth quarter points in 5 games. 85 points in the fourth quarter. That's 60 minutes of basketball. And Mr. Mind the Game is the new Pat Riley. The new Pat Riley, remember.
Hey, did I read that Doc Rivers is going to the Knicks? Is that true, or is that
No, okay, no, he is not. Now, from what I'm hearing, Johnny Bryant, we were just talking about Black coaches that deserve a chance. From what I'm hearing, Johnny Bryant, who's an assistant with Cleveland, might be first in line. So, the Knicks are going to get on their coaching. They're going to get a list, and they're going to interview. They're going to actually interview about 6-7 serious candidates, and then go with the best one. And I think more than likely that's going to be the most win now ready job, right? Considering that none of the Final 14, unless Chris Finch gets fired, but even then, I still think that the Knicks would be a better job than Minnesota would be if they fire Chris Finch. But so we're gonna get on a coaching search. But it looks like Johnny Bryant, who was with us, went to Cleveland, might be the front runner. But I've heard of a couple other. I heard Mike Malone is out. That's what I'm hearing. Philip Bondi reported that.
All right.
So yeah, it's gonna be a hell of an offseason. There's gonna be a lot of news going on out there, and of course, LeBron's gonna have to find his way in the middle of some of it, even though the Lakers are dead in the water.
Hey, I was trying to call back in. The last time I was talking to you and Zay, I had just finished talking trash about Karl Anthony Towns, and he went on
That's
that.
I remember.
He went on that right after I said that. He was shooting threes and dunking on people like right and left. I was like, what the fuck is happening?
That man scored 20 points and had 8 rebounds in the first 7.5 minutes of the fourth quarter. And I was saying it too. He had more fourth quarter points in those 7 minutes than LeBron had in 5 games in the first round. I'm just saying, Mr. All NBA second team.
Oh, well, so are you invested in him for the future there?
Well, look, obviously, an All NBA All-Star starter. He was either he's going to be the key piece to try and trade for Giannis, and of course, if Giannis if the winds go that Giannis wants out of Milwaukee, obviously we're gonna knock on that door. So, and I looked at the money; it matches up salary for salary. But of course, the Knicks would still have to throw in like one of the rookies and probably some pick swaps or the pick because we have Washington's protected first round pick next year. So more than likely that would go. Karl Anthony Towns and probably a couple rookies if that's going to be, and honestly, who's giving you a better like unless Milwaukee wants these draft picks for this year's draft and like for Dallas or for Cooper Flag, you know what I'm saying? But more than likely, he doesn't want to go to Dallas. He probably wants to go to New York or LA. LA, what is LA giving? Austin Reeves, they have no picks. All they have is pick swaps. So but if that's not the case, if we don't get Giannis, I'm invested. We run it back. Karl Anthony Towns is too talented. I maintain this is why I wanted Tibbs because I don't think his offense was getting the most out of Karl Anthony Towns. Right? He's a catch. He's a stretch five. You don't have that a stretch five, stretch four, and we weren't running that many 3-point plays for him. Like he would take his threes like on random plays, and it's like. Why didn't we run plays to get him a three? He's a really good shooter outside,
Let me give a shout out to Brian C., who provided another example of tampering. Draymond got a $50K tampering fine for saying Devin Booker should leave the Suns. See, I wasn't even aware of that one. But
see, there you go.
I remember that one. I'm back, by the way.
Hey, welcome back.
Thanks.
I'm not the other one. Yeah. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I am actually going to play basketball for exactly 30 minutes and then go watch basketball. But I appreciate you calling in.
No doubt.
King's Speech, when are you going live? Sorry.
So I'll be going live like 9:30ish. I'm probably gonna be watching the game too. And then depending on how the game's going, I'll just say, all right, let's drop live and maybe I'll just kind of do a little live react to the second half or whatever. And because it starts at 8:30, right?
Yeah, Eastern.
Okay.
Yeah,
8:30 Eastern. So yeah, I'll probably be going 5:30 Pacific. No, 6:30 Pacific. My math is terrible. So 9:30 is, and then again, the main topic we'll be talking Nick Biz because I think that's other than the finals, that's the big news of the day. With Thibodeau getting fired, and again, some of us Knicks fans are happy. Some of us are, oh, how can we do it? I want a newer, better coach. I want to coach the coaches in this century. So I'm good.
All right, King. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Haas, I see that you are here. You know what? We're going to bring in Haas because Haas always brings something. By the way, Tyson and Young Disciple, please go over to King Speech's channel. He's expecting you. Haas, welcome. Did I make you wait too long? People walk away from their phones. Mr. Haas, I cannot hear you. All right, I'll go back to my closing then that I did a few minutes ago. Haas, you always bring good stuff. I apologize that we missed you. And Speam, thanks for being here.
Oh, always a pleasure.
And I'll talk to you after game 1 of the NBA Finals. We'll see everybody on the next one.
I got no life. I'll be up. All right, y'all.
All right.